Well, the DA's Federal Executive Council has given Patricia de Lille until next Wednesday to make submissions on why she should remain in office. This after the party's caucus in the City Council yesterday voted for her removal through a secret ballot. De Lille has been at loggerheads with the party in recent months over governance issues in the city of Cape Town. For more on this now, we're joined in the studio by political analyst Professor Steven Friedman. Good evening to you, and thank you for talking to us in this way. Firstly, I suppose the narrative is really that this is a foregone conclusion. She's going to be removed. Is there a scenario in which the Cape Town mayor digs in her heels and forces this to go to the council, because she's elected as mayor by the council, isn't she?
Yes, Bongani, she is. And there is a scenario in which that could happen. And the scenario is one in which they say, you've got to go, and she says no. And if they say no, if she says no, the only option is to vote her out at a council meeting. So she can force it to go to the council. If it goes to the council, it then becomes an issue of whether we have a rerun of the previous time, where she has enough support in her own caucus to stay in office. Obviously, if she's defeated in council, then she has to go, if there's a no vote, no confidence in her.
So, I mean, this could be a long, sort of deja vu, Groundhog Day kind of scenario in which, if, as you say, she's got those numbers, certainly from the opposition, she may still have some support in her caucus. If we're back there again, what happens then?
Well, the issue, first of all, what I think the DA leadership are banking on is that they've persuaded some of the people who supported her last time to not support her. But if that happens again, well, then she remains the mayor. The issue here is she's not the mayor of the DA, she's the mayor of Cape Town, and she's accountable to the provincial the municipal council in this case, and unless the municipal council get rid of her, she remains the mayor, and that's the problem that the DA is trying to get around. Now, they can expel her from the party, but that doesn't change the reality that she's the elected mayor of Cape Town, and the only body that can get rid of her is the Metropolitan Council of Cape Town.
If the DA had called you, I don't know, say 2 months ago and said, this is the problem that we're facing with this mayor, how should we play this? What might you have said to them?
Well, I think it's very simple. If you can't get enough support in your own caucus to get rid of the mayor, then you can't get rid of the mayor. You know, there's some interesting parallels here between the ANC and Jacob Zuma, in the sense that the only way in which the ANC could get rid of Jacob Zuma, if he absolutely refused to resign, was a no-confidence vote in Parliament, which is where we were heading before he agreed to resign. This is the same situation. It doesn't matter that a mayor is elected on a party ticket. You cannot remove a mayor from office unless the council votes, or, of course, unless the provincial administration places the whole council in administration, which is another option. But I think the effect of placing Cape Town in administration, which means you have no elected council, would be so devastating that it would be very foolish to try. So what I would have advised them to do is win a majority in your caucus, then you don't have a problem.
They would say, of course, that as far as the caucus is concerned, that's exactly what happened yesterday.
Well, no, you see, their problem is that they have a majority in the caucus, but they do not have a majority in the council, because obviously there are a whole lot of ANC members in the council and members of other parties, etc. So you have to go beyond simply taking a caucus vote and saying we don't want you here anymore. You have to have enough support in order to win the vote. I get back to this question of the ANC and Mr. Zuma. What they had to do was make sure that they had, with the opposition, enough votes to get him out, and of course comfortably they did. The DA's problem is that the opposition, whereas the opposition were opposed to Mr. Zuma, the opposition are not opposed to Mayor de Lille. And as long as that is the case, they have to get the votes within the DA caucus or simply accept that she's the mayor.
Let me ask you what may seem like a silly question, because there's so many rumors and allegations swirling back and forth around what's actually at the heart of this issue for the DA against the mayor. Many citizens have been watching all of this play out, particularly those who comment on social media, don't quite know what it's actually about. Now, you're a learned man. What do you think is at the heart of this?
Well, I think the key thing, Bongani, to bear in mind is that the ANC is not the only party in this country which has factions. The DA has factions, and really the DA in the Western Cape has been split by factions for quite a while now. It doesn't show itself at the provincial level because Helen Zille seems to be politically strong enough to manage things at that level within the DA. But Patricia de Lille is relatively new to the DA, and she doesn't handle those factional issues as well as Zuma does, and therefore she's at the moment in the wrong faction. The anti-de Lille faction has a majority in the DA caucus, has clearly got the support it needs from the DA federal executive. And so in a sense, you know, this is factional politics. I mean, obviously, as with all factional politics, if you speak to the one faction, they'll tell her that she's a brave black woman being persecuted by white dinosaurs. And if you speak to the other faction, you'll say that she's hopelessly incompetent and probably not very honest and needs to be got rid of. But that's how factional politics always plays itself out.
Outside of the party, of course, a particular narrative is playing out, and of course, that this being South Africa, race is never far from it. There's now this idea that, you know, strong, particularly black female leaders in the DA are hounded out of the party. People point to Lindiwe Mazibuko. Are we seeing something similar here?
Well, people are drawing those conclusions because, as you correctly say, we had the Lindiwe Mazibuko incident. Beyond that, if you go back to the recent DA conference, the reality, whatever the reason for it is, that whenever there was a contested position between a black candidate and a white candidate, the white candidate won. And people drew certain conclusions from that. I think there's another wrinkle to this which we need to take into account, which is the fact that the old apartheid racial categories still matter in this country, unfortunately. The majority of voters in the Western Cape are people who were classified as coloured under apartheid. They are widely agreed to have ditched the ANC because they felt that the ANC was not interested in that section of the community. If they start drawing the conclusion that because Patricia de Lille has gone, the DA is not interested in that section of the community, then the DA's very large majority in the Western Cape could be seriously threatened.
Yet, of course, the DA may well bank on the fact that the ANC is in complete disarray in that province, and that even if de Lille is removed and that perception sticks, they may not, voters in that province may not want to necessarily switch to the ANC.
No, that's a very distinct possibility. You're absolutely right. I mean, the ANC is tremendously weak in the Western Cape. They brought in Ibrahim Rasool, the former premier, to try and fix that. But you know, the jury is very much out on how far he's going to get. And you're also correct in the sense that one of the biggest problems that the ANC has in the Western Cape is even greater factionalism than the DA. So, look, the DA may well feel that even if there is considerable coloured voter sympathy for de Lille, they can get away with it because of the factors you've mentioned. But obviously, you know, if you get rid of a mayor in these circumstances, you are taking a political risk.
Well, let's talk about this de Lille clause. I mean, they said it wasn't about her, but it now appears, you know, it is in fact that, you know, that's what they're applying to try and push her out.
Well, they were frustrated by the fact that the last time around they thought it was a simple process of going to a vote of no confidence and she would be out, and they lost the vote because they failed to convince a section of the DA caucus to vote against her. So they're trying to solve that problem by introducing this thing which they passed at their conference, which says that they can remove you. The problem about that, besides the fact that it does exactly what they accuse the ANC of doing, which it means that the party leadership can do what voters are supposed to do, it's also not constitutionally possible for the reasons we've discovered. They can expel her from the party, but they can't expel her from the mayorship unless they can get that majority. So it's a very strange resolution because it dents the DA's democratic credentials and doesn't actually get them any further.
And she has said she is prepared to fight this to the very last. Professor Friedman, thank you very much for your analysis.